So, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for taking Sunday evening with us. You may be watching live, or this could be later for a replay, but I really hope tonight is educational. So, my name is Kellie Lupsha. I'm a Pro 6 with LifeVantage. I live out in Southern California in Orange County. And my husband and I have our own private practice as physical therapists, and we have specialized over the past 20 years in the recovery of neurological disorders, but specifically stroke, traumatic brain injury, and concussion. So I've been asked to speak on concussion, and what I love about it is it's actually something that is super common and probably way more common than any of you ever even realize. So we're going to talk a little bit of what is it, what's happening to your brain, what things you can do to help, as well as how to keep your brain healthy. And therefore, should you end up sustaining a concussion, your brain has the most protection so that you don't end up with concussion symptoms. And then we're going to bring on another amazing guest, and we're going to talk further about some of the products of the company. So we are going to get right into this for this evening. So first and foremost, let's talk kind of basics. And for some of you, this may be just like 101, right? And for others of you, you may, know more. So I want to give you an overall, what is a concussion? Concussion is the type of traumatic brain injury, or you'll hear people say a TBI, that's caused by a bump or a blow or a jolt to your head or a hit to the body that causes your head and your brain to move rapidly back and forth. So people think of concussion, i.e. like sports injuries. And of course, the big movie Concussion came out, which really highlighted sports injuries and concussion, specifically football. But what I really want everybody to understand is this can happen from anybody in a fall, a car accident, from a roller coaster, or any other activity where your brain is jarred. So you may be getting up and hitting your head on a cupboard or getting out of a car. So to be honest with you, we have 4 children, and 2 of our 4 children have sustained concussions completely unsports related. So really, it's very, very common. Of course, if you do participate in sports such as football, lacrosse, soccer, hockey, any sport, right? Could be volleyball, anything where your head may hit or your body is jarred enough that your poor brain is going, back and forth, because it's really the brain that's being injured. And then of course, concussions are usually not life-threatening, but they can cause very serious, symptoms that may need medical attention, but they often go overlooked. So just take a look at this a little bit, you guys. Looking at a head and hitting, again, it could be your brain going back and forth, right? Our brain lives inside this hard skull of ours. And so if your head shakes hard enough, that brain in there is rattling back and forth, causing shearing forces. And those shearing forces may lead to these concussion symptoms. So again, don't just think athletes. If you look at the percentages, this is the people that are ending up and how they get their concussions. 28% are through falls. That's pretty significant. And another 20% in motor vehicle accidents, another almost 20% struck by or against an object of some sort, 11% assault. And then of course you look at other, mechanisms for those last handful. So sports injuries are not what everybody thinks as of just concussion. It can really happen to any of us at any time. So if you have hit your head before, you may think oh, I'm just a little stunned or dazed, right? But what symptoms should you truly look for if you think, really, maybe I ended up with a concussion after all? Well, things like brain fog, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, those are very, very common. Light and sound sensitivity. So anything, vision or hearing, having difficulties doing a task that's normally easy for you. It could be that you feel scattered or forgetful, maybe more moody or irritable, or you could have difficulty sleeping. Now, these are just a few of some of the common symptoms that you'll see, and we'll talk a little further about more extensive. But these symptoms can be scary. They can be frustrating, as you don't feel like yourself anymore, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And again, we'll go into that. If you've had a concussion, then you might be saying, feeling misguided. Yes, that was me. Absolutely feeling misguided. Because on the surface, you look fine, right? So people don't understand that you're injured. What do you mean you're injured? You look normal. You're walking around, you're talking. Yes, but the brain is injured. So you also might start feeling like, well, why isn't it healing? Why do I still have headaches? Why am I still having, sensitivity to sound? Will it heal? Can it heal? Are there things that I can do, or should I accept this as my fate? Well, to make matters worse, many medical practitioners, now a good handful of us today know different, but the majority of the people still get very generic advice. You might get some medications to help calm the symptoms, but they're really not treating root cause. Or they might say something like, just go get some rest and limit your activity, and then you'll be fine. And that kind of what was old school, is we thought just rest and you'll be fine. And if you go and ask the doctor for more testing, like a standard CT or MRI, they're not going to pick up on your neural damage. Now, today, there are new tests out there that can show more damage than others, but you have to be getting specific tests. And a lot of doctors aren't going to offer those to you, especially in the beginning. So if you feel stuck, you're plagued with anxiety, or you're annoyed because of lack of answers, you're sad that you don't have like energy or focus to be present with your family, you're not alone. And so I'm going to share a little bit more about these are post-concussion syndrome. These symptoms may go on for days, weeks, months, and beyond. So it's going to be critical to take an extensive, well-rounded approach in healing, truly your brain. And if any of you have had a concussion, or you just want a reference for a concussion, there's a book called Brain Save, and it's by a neurologist, Dr. Titus Chu. I would highly recommend you get this book, and this came from him. He says there are many, you could have physical symptoms, mental symptoms, or emotional symptoms. So you guys can read them, but they can run the gamut again from just physical fatigue, balance, light sensitivity, headaches, to mental symptoms of brain fog, hard to think clearly, slowed reaction time, difficulty concentrating, or emotional symptoms of why am I irritable? Why am I sad? Why do I even feel more emotional? Or maybe you never had anxiety, depression before, but you have them now. So don't be afraid to think like, what's wrong with me? No, these are real in post-concussion symptoms in the syndrome. And what can go on from there, can actually predetermine you for things down the road like early Alzheimer's and dementia, things like that. So it is really serious that you take this information for those that need it, because truly you can heal the brain. So what's going on inside my head, right, with concussion? So again, it starts with a blow to the head. You have a concussion, which is known as a mild traumatic brain injury. It is the most common form of TBI. And post-concussion syndrome afterward is very real. There's a neurobiological problem deeply rooted in several neural networks that make up your brain. Okay, so we're going to talk about that, right? This imbalance in these neural networks. You're asking neural what? So what I love, because this is my passion, specializing in the recovery of brain injuries and stroke and everything, is that our brain is amazing, but it can't be replaced like other parts of our body, okay? The brain allows us to feel, to think, to move, create, grow, to love. It is an amazing organ. And we can experience all of that because of the communication that happens between our brain cells, our brain regions, and our neural networks. So let me briefly share with you a little information about our cells, the regions, and what are these neural networks as far as concussion. So the cells in your brain, they're itty bitty, okay? And this is where it all begins. Believe it or not, the diameter is like about the width of a piece of dust, right? You can't even hardly see it. And in your nervous system, there's over 100 billion brain cells, okay, that are going to make up these neural networks. You have more brain cells than there are stars in the galaxy, right? For a picture of how big this really is. So each brain cell itself, each cell connects with over 10,000 other brain cells that live close to one another, and they form regions. So imagine if that connection from one cell to another, right, that connection is disrupted. It just can't communicate there anymore, but it's supposed to communicate with 10,000. So maybe just a few here or there, like you have a few streets under repair, so you got to go other directions, but it makes you not fully function. And each region really of these neural networks has its own unique function of the body And you can actually take a quiz inside this book that I told you, Brain Save, and it kind of tells you what neural networks that are probably affected for you with your concussion. But the star of the show amongst all your cells, your regions, is truly these neural networks. Through activation and deactivation, the patterns of these networks are what gives the experience of the world to us. So it's so fascinating that we're studying all of this and how, we're using our own brains to study the function of the brain, right? So I want you to just understand that every experience that you have as a human being is involved with these neural networks partnering and talking to one another. So what happens to the neural networks after you have a concussion, okay? Number one, you get immunotoxicity, bad. Basically, when that physical trauma happens, chemical traumas happen within the brain. That chemical trauma starts taking place and leading into a cascade. This actually triggers an immune response, leading to widespread inflammation in the brain. We all know inflammation is a big baddie, right? And so now our brain is full of it. And if the level of inflammation gets high enough, it can truly start leading to cell death. And when they die, they start releasing these chemicals called glutamate, which is normal, okay? But glutamate is a very powerful excitatory neurotransmitter. And when too much of it is released in the brain and the cells gobble it up, they actually become overstimulated and they die. So the last thing any of us want is cell death. But unfortunately, if that inflammation is not addressed, that's exactly what starts happening. So this process overall is called excitotoxicity, and it's a deadly chain reaction of inflammation and toxicity triggered after the concussion. So is it important to control that? Absolutely. So let me give you 12 biggest obstacles to healing that I hear all the time and I can read about all the time. Number one, unchecked brain inflammation. Most people do not understand how to eliminate inflammation in the brain. Unmanaged mental and emotional stresses that we all have. The world is so vast. It's so distracted already. Now having a brain injury, living in this crazy busy world makes it even worse. Digestive imbalances. It is critical, especially in the first, couple months after a concussion, to truly eliminate gluten and dairy. Very, very high percentage of people end up with digestive issues. Blood sugar imbalances. Your mitochondria becomes very sensitive and also can die off. So improving your mitochondrial health. You might end up with food sensitivities you never had before, hormone imbalances, joint and muscular imbalances, toxins left over in your body, single nucleoside polymorphisms, untreated autoimmune diseases, and hidden infections. These are all obstacles which some people never even think about when they're saying, oh, I just sustained a concussion. It can be very widespread. So it's complicated, right? It's very complicated, but we try to make this as simple as possible. So I want you to understand that if you look at that graph, you have pre-injury factors, meaning have you previously had a concussion or a TBI? What is your physical, mental, and social factors before you hit your head? And actually, what is your sex before you hit your head? Then you have injury characteristics, right? Then you go on and you have all these factors and overlapping symptoms, and then ultimately what happens to your outcome. So this is a journey through having a concussion to hopefully you're having a good outcome. But I want you guys to understand, if you haven't had a concussion or you want to protect your brain optimally, pre-injury is critical. So how can we be proactive to help the health of our brain to decrease our risk factors of concussion symptoms? So you heard it, you've heard it again and again, is that reduce inflammation. And specifically in concussion, we are talking reduce brain inflammation. I am so proud that we have the most powerful way to decrease brain inflammation, activating that Nrf2 pathway using Protandim Nrf2, turning on your own body's anti-inflammatory genes, turning your own body's detoxification system on and cleaning up that trash, upregulating your own body's antioxidant system, because it is critical to upregulate glutathione, the brain's master antioxidant, as well as, of course, the other benefits of catalase and superoxide dismutase that truly are going to give your brain the best chance of reducing that inflammation. But other ways you've got to reduce inflammation that I think people forget about or don't understand that they play such a role is the omega plus that we have. DHA is a fatty acid found in high concentration in the brain and in your brain membranes. And it allows for that neural communication of the neural networks that we were talking about. If this decreases with all of the inflammation that's going on, as it does that, we need to decrease that inflammation. And when we decrease that inflammation using that DHA, it actually upregulates the gene that produces BDNF. BDNF, you can also get it with exercise and running. I always say, I'm going to keep that. It's a protein that is essential for neuroplasticity. So if you guys want to keep your brain healthy for life, you want that neuroplasticity. You want to upregulate that BDNF. So be sure you use that omega plus. And then another I just wanted to throw in that's actually very important is magnesium. Magnesium is the master mineral that supports neuroplasticity and assists unstable brain cells. So that also is important. The other is mitochondrial health, right? We talked about how the mitochondria can get damaged. So we know they produce ATP. They're the powerhouse of the cell. Again, don't want to keep certain people may already know a lot about it. And mitochondrial health is one of the biggest buzzes out there. But the chemical cascade that happens with traumatic brain injury and with a concussion syndrome, you just need to understand that that damages your mitochondria. So we have to find ways to repair it. You can find some other ways, to shock your system. Hopefully you're all reading multiple ways so that you're getting multiple inputs of getting your mitochondria the healthiest possible. But adding Protandim Nrf2 is going to help do that and give you the necessary energy for all the rest of your healing cells, the cell regions, and your neural networks. I have to say, gut health is our second brain. We all know there is a direct access. If you don't know, I'm telling you, between the gut and the brain, okay? The gut gives off and communicates to the brain, and actually there's more chemical reactions going to the brain from the gut than the brain to the gut. So interesting. So I want you to understand that the health of your microbiome is what is going to send positive or negative neurotransmitters of stress, anxiety, mood issues up into your brain. So cleaning up the gut, having that healthy microbiome, having a pre and probiotic, remember, they are all not created equal. And I'm not going to spend time on that tonight. I know there's been other discussions specifically on why the LifeVantage products of the prebiotic and the probiotic are so integral, especially with the time-released patent on it with the BioTrack. But the other thing I want you to know besides your pre and probiotics is you've got to clean up your gut and look at eliminating gluten and dairy after a concussion, okay? It may be things that you continue on in your life, eliminating those things, but really after that concussion for the first few months, it is critical to help the repair of that gut. So I'm going to give you 10 steps to reset your recovery process after a concussion or a TBI. And I'll be sure that there's a link if anybody wants it, because it has a little bit more information on these 10 detailed out. But you've got to prime your cells with a high quality supplement. You've got to look at your overall nutrition, right? Food is information. That brain and that gut need healing like no other. You need sleep and you need downtime. You need to detox using an infrared sauna. You need to be able to block out noise. So having earplugs, block out junk light, having blue light blocking glasses, gentle exercise. It's not just rest anymore. You need gentle exercise. You need to give yourself mini breaks throughout the day. And even practices of meditation can be very, very helpful in resetting yourself after concussion. So you guys need to keep your brain healthy because number one, let's just not have a concussion. But the chances are you may bump your head in your lifetime, right? So neuroprotection is key. Activating your body and brain, protect it with Protandim with Nrf2 and Axio for the brain, maintain your mitochondrial health, maintain your cellular health, proper gut health, sleep, exercise, and hydrate. prevention is the key. So if we can stay one step ahead of the game, then I think we're on the right path. So you guys, with that, I hope that gives you a better understanding of concussion, what it is, what's happening in your brain, how to start helping to heal and repair it, and how to keep your brain healthy. Therefore, when something might occur, that the symptoms that you are going to sustain may be minimal or not at all. That's what my hope would be for you. So I'm going to turn it over to one of my business partners, Jill Werner. Jill Werner is a Pro 5 out in Canada, outside of Ontario and St. Catharines. And let me tell you, you guys, she is absolutely I am her biggest fan. Let me tell you that, because just a few days ago, who was going to be on this with me couldn't. And I said, no worries, I'll find somebody. I said, hey, Jill, you want to do this with me? Without hesitation, Jill says, yes. And I just know that if you don't hear from somebody, they're either not working the business or they're killing it in the business. And, I know that, some of my mentors and my leaders, they knew when they stopped hearing from me, right? Our great Michael Epstein, Marcy Preble, Shreese Matthews, they knew we were running with or without them. Well, you guys, Jill is taking this business on fire right now. And I could not be more blessed to have her with me on our team. So Jill, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will let you come on and share yours when you are ready. So
thank you so much. That was amazing, Kelly. Thank you. I also am a physiotherapist or physical therapist who specializes in neurological injuries and diseases, stroke and brain injury. And I also specialize in Parkinson's disease. And that's how I know Kelly originally. So super excited to do this topic and talk about this with you. And so when you said you were talking about concussion, I just said I need to talk about Axio, because it is my favorite product with relation to our brain, with the quickest results, I feel like, or that we can feel them the fastest. All our products are important for our brain health, but I feel like Axio is the one that gives the immediate, as soon as you take it in your water bottle, that you can feel some effects of that. And so I will share my screen, and I'm going to talk primarily about Axio. And that was amazing. Thank you. You did a phenomenal job on concussion. So my one quick share on Protandim, Nrf2, is that this upregulates glutathione, SOD, and catalase, just like Kelly said. Glutathione is super, super important for our blood vessels, our blood vessel health, and that is very, very critical to our brain health. And glutathione, I was reading a little bit more on this, and I loved this description, that glutathione acts like flypaper in our body and in our cells, like literally on a cellular level acts like flypaper. And all the free radicals and heavy metals and junk that we're exposed to sticks to the glutathione and it takes it out of our body. And I think that's a great way to use to describe it when we're talking to people. So that's just my 2 cents on Protandim Nrf2 and the ability for it to upregulate our own body to make its own glutathione. We make glutathione and in our cells. We're supposed to make it if our body's working well, and we're just giving it the tools to do what it's supposed to do. Blood vessels. Our blood vessels are so important. Our blood vessel health is so important for our brain health, because when our blood vessels maybe have a little weak spot and it will balloon out and maybe burst, it's going to, the blood is going to leak into our brain, and that's going to kill the brain cells where the blood leaks into, and that's basically a stroke or what can happen with a traumatic brain injury. And the other thing, so we want healthy vessels. The other thing that can happen is the vessel can get very hard and narrow and become inflexible, and not as much blood is getting through the vessel. And so the area of the brain that's being fed by that vessel starts to wither and isn't as healthy. And then again, we're feeling the effects and decrease of brain function, because again, the vessel health. So our blood vessels are super, super important when it comes to brain health. Axio Nrf2 for your brain. I'm not gonna we all know this. It improves Brain fog reduces mental fatigue, improves mood, concentration, alertness, focus, enhances our neurotransmitters. We're going to talk more about that. That gets me excited. So what am I going to say about Axio? Axio is the best thing to try with people. If you want to give somebody an immediate experience with our products, give them a couple sleeves of Axio. Explain how to use it, that you have to put it in a water bottle, shake it up, let it dissolve. Give them 3 sticks of Axio and say, do these once a day for the next 3 days. You're going to give them an experience with our products. With Protandim Nrf2 and some of our other products, they may not feel anything, or it may take a lot longer for them to feel something. But with Axio, many times they will feel something right away. And tell them what they might experience, that they might have improved mental endurance or mental acuity, improved concentration, increased energy, increased mental energy, an improved mood, like a more positive mood, improved attention, decreased muscle fatigue, mental fatigue. So explain what they'll feel when you give them that Axio sample, reducing brain fog. I mean, this is really, really something that I hear all the time people complain about. I mean, backaches, brain fog, and fatigue in general are things I hear people talk about every day, all day, I think. And we can help with brain fog and we can help with fatigue with Axio. All right, next slide. When you share with them, I have these pictures on my phone. Show them some before and afters. So explain how to use the product. Tell them what they may experience, and then give them a visual example. And I love these 2 pictures. The one, I'm sure everybody's seen these, or at least one of them, but the one on the left is a spelling test from a 9-year-old boy with anxiety and I believe ADHD. The test on the left that's really messy and disorganized and has spelling mistakes is before this child is taking any products. So when I look at that, I think about what's happening in his brain. It's not connecting that well. Things aren't flowing very well. It's not communicating very well. And that's not just happening in his spelling test. That's probably happening in his organization of his room or his social interactions at school. It's probably part of his whole personality. And then the spelling test on the right is 2 weeks later with taking Axio 1 pack a day. Look at how organized, tidy, and neat that is. No spelling mistakes. That is a completely different kid. What's happening in his brain is thoughts aren't ping-ponging around like a pinball machine. They're flowing easily. Things are communicating. And that's probably translating into his personality and what he's doing every day. So that's a great example. The second example is a 5-year-old on the autistic spectrum. And these 2 coloring examples are 3 weeks apart. The one on the left, where is just purple, there are little pictures underneath there, but he's not coloring within the lines at all. He's not using any other colors. There's no organization to it. On the right, that's 3 weeks later. I mean, these are profound results. He's using multiple colors. He's staying within the lines. I mean, that is a different child. So have these examples on your phone ready to show people and go for it. Now, getting into the ingredients. Don't worry too much. I'm going to talk about each of the ingredients because we should all have a little bit of knowledge about the ingredients. But when you're sharing this with somebody, don't get into all the ingredients and that's in it. Share the packets, tell them how to use it, tell them what they may feel or the effects that they may feel. Possibly show them a picture or an example and leave it at that. If you've shared a product with them and they've had an experience with our products, they're more likely or will be more open to listen to you when you're talking about or other products in the future. And so it's just a great way to help somebody open up to the idea of you talking to them about the LifeVantage products. So first ingredient I'm going to talk about is DMAE. This increases something called acetylcholine. Doesn't matter. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters help our brain cells to talk to each other. They help our brain cells to talk to the rest of our body. So neurotransmitters are very important. And DMAE is helping increase the production of a very important neurotransmitter. So DMAE on its own has been studied for, I think, 40 years. There's studies going back with ADHD, memory, boosting brain power, with different mood disorders. So there's a lot of research separately on DMAE and multiple different disorders and diseases. DMAE works better when B vitamins are around. And guess what else is in Axio? B vitamins. So this is well thought out and well designed, just like all of our products. We have vitamin B12, and it is the methylated version of B12, which means it's more accessible in our body. It's more bioavailable, is the word that the science nerds like me use, but it's more accessible. Our bodies has an easier time using it when it's methylated. And B12 is an essential vitamin for our body. It helps with protecting the nerve and brain cells. It helps to stimulate serotonin production, which is another important part of our mood. And it helps with red blood cell formation, supporting our immune function, maintaining a positive mood. That goes back to the serotonin. It's really important for vision, B12, and it also helps improve our sleep quality. Another ingredient in our Axio is quercetin, and that's an anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, and it's really important in stabilizing blood vessels. Again, back to the blood vessels and brain health. So super important for brain health. Green tea, helpful for stabilizing blood flow, which again goes back to brain and vessel health and helps with reducing headaches. If someone has a concussion, they are having headaches. Pine bark, amazing, amazing ingredient. It is an Nrf2 activator, so it's an Nrf2 activator for our brain. It's also important for blood vessel health. So again, a lot of this goes back to blood vessel health and the connection with blood vessel health and our brain. And then L-theanine, one of those other amazing ingredients that they put in here. L-theanine helps to lower your blood pressure and actually helps to transmit the nerve impulses within your brain. So again, going back to those neurotransmitters, that's our brain cells talking to each other, which is really important, and our brain cells talking to the rest of our body. So L-theanine helps with that. L-theanine also has a calming and focusing effect. So it's got an anti-anxiety effect without producing sleepiness or impairing motor function, which is huge because it's helping to improve alertness and attention, but with anxiety reducing effects. There's also niacin in here in Axio, which helps with your nervous system, digestive system, and skin health. And I talked about B vitamins. The other thing I want to say about B vitamins, they're very important for slowing brain shrinkage in general. We also have B6 in another B vitamin, B6 in Axio. B vitamins work even better when we have the right quantities of omega-3 fatty acids. So what else should we be taking? The omega fatty acids. We should be taking the whole vitality stack. But that's just another way that the Axio and our products work together to really give us overall health. And then Kellie talked about the gut and brain connection, which is super, super important. I just want to check my time. I'm getting over time. So many neurotransmitters are made in the gut. I will leave it at that. But our gut and brain are very important. So our biggest influence of what we put into our body is the food we put in, and it goes into our gut. Our gut makes all our neurotransmitters, which go back up to our brain. So what we're putting in is very important. The other thing that Kelly talked about, and I'm just going to mention it briefly, is magnesium. There's a small amount of magnesium in Axio. Magnesium is important in over 300 enzymatic pathways in our body. It's extremely important mineral. And then I'm not even getting to our mitochondria and our Nrf1. So what I was saying about the gut and brain is the probiotic. Our probiotic is very important to have a healthy gut to help us have a healthy brain. And Nrf1, we're not even going to have time because we're getting over time about Nrf1 and our mitochondria, but that will be covered, I'm sure, in another training. But our Nrf1 and our mitochondria are very important. Our brain cells are very densely populated with mitochondria. They have tons of mitochondria per brain cell. So you want to have robust mitochondria, healthy mitochondria in those brain cells for our brains to be working well. All right, I am going to stop share, and I think that we are at time, so I don't want to keep talking.
Oh gosh, awesome, Jill. You guys, I mean, if you ever even like think twice about should I introduce our products to somebody, it is like essential. If somebody has something going on or they're just looking for health and prevention, it was very thought out, very, very specific how Axio is designed. And so I hope each and every one of you guys has sticks of Axio with you at all times, handing them out to people, but you've got to tell them what Jill shared with you of what they may expect, and then follow back up with them after a couple days. So our products are essential in helping help people after concussion and helping people stay healthy to prevent symptoms of concussion. So with that, you guys have a blessed night. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure they'll have the recording out to you guys shortly. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.